I'm along the ES here we had a nice high volume move down here and pull back to the volume, so we'll see if that can hold and move up. We have space all the way up to into this area. This has all been tested in the 4214, but just got to hold this area and go from here. Nice upside potential here, but
the first order of business is get back to this LV. 100%. Right, you go back through that. Hold it from below right here, we're in trouble. Big volume coming on the upside. I'm going to throw that straight.
And it's not looking good. We pushed down below the volume now, but let's see if we can just push above right here. It's got to hold this volume and move higher, but I'm going to manage risk real tight here now. That's a nice little reaction, but kind of right around the break even, and it needs to move higher. Now I'm stuck slightly below the volume, but just need some kind of push up higher here.
I think ES and everything else is going to be like it was kind of yesterday, where you catch some, you can get into some grind here and there, but for the most part, when the target.
That's a nice reaction there, and I want to see it push above these highs here, and then I'll de-risk. And that's a nice reaction. It's going to probably have a reaction up to 4200, but let's get a push up above this. It's tempting to de-risk here early, but still not de-risked here. If we get one small little push, that'll be a real good sign for this trade, because then we have potentially the short-term sellers trapped in this trade on high volume as well. So I'm going to bring up my dome on this trade so that we can see what's going on. So now I'm going to de-risk. So +1. So now this area here is what I want to hold from above. So these short-term sellers are now trapped. So we have some volume, definitely some volume coming in here, but we have the potential to take out all this liquidity here and then back up into this area. So I like it so far. I've been tempted to lock in a little bit more profit because I've been giving back so much on trades lately and letting them come back to all the way to break even and take me out. So it's a 99.50 will be 2 points, so that's just a small profit on that, but I would expect this to come back and hold from above. So still holding this here, got 2 points locked in. I need these tops to hold, and the problem with this is that we easily could see a pullback to this area and take me out, and that's what I was talking about. There's a fine line between locking in profit and being taken out on a trade with nice equity, and this is exactly what I was talking about, and it just took me out. So we'll reevaluate, but at least I locked in 2 points, and so that's exactly what I'm talking about. So here we came back exactly to my entry on an expected pullback. This level held, which is this LVN point here, and now we're moving higher, and it's doing exactly what my expectation was, and now I have 10 points already on the trade and likely to take out this double top here, and then possibly, who knows, this is tested all the way up into here, so into the 1375 would have been an optimistic target, but a good one still, I think. There is 10 points on that trade up to the 0925, right up back up into that double top area here. This is also the VPOC, the highest volume area of the overnight session. So expectation is to see some trade there, but also this high volume here needs to hold, in my opinion. We might slightly spike below, but an issue managing this trade, I think, because if we get down below that, then we potentially have more limit sellers coming in here and a potential to come down. This structure here, these lows are, in my opinion, are not real strong, and this low here is also not real strong. So if we get down below that, all of this could go to the downside. But if I was still in this trade, I'd be probably holding it to try to see if we spike below this area. But again, if I'm in that trade for 10 points, that's giving it a lot of it back to push down below this 0225. But these sellers are trapped, these sellers are trapped, these sellers are trapped, and potentially all these shorts from these highs here. But there's definitely limit selling interest in here because we have these higher volume limit sellers up here, and then this is where this break came down as I see it. So this is supply. This has all been taken out for the most part, but that doesn't mean that these sellers aren't still here. But Reed is still to the long side. I would expect it to go up from here if we can hold this area. It's a lot of ifs, but again, I've given back so many trades lately, positive equity trades, as I say, and that's a huge difference between profitability and losing. So it's okay for me to take some of those. As long as I have a winning percentage that's decent, then I'll be okay on that. But just 4-6 points to constantly give back on a lot of trades where I'm the trade is correct and I'm on the right side of it, give it back. Had a long trade in the ES in this area. The idea was that this LVM would hold. We had these short-term sellers trapped, liquidity already taken out below the low into this fresh demand area over here from the left from the overnight trade. And I didn't have a chance to manage it very well. I took a small loss in here on this spike down, about a 1 point loss or so. And we got this final little push down. So if I had held my stop under the lows here and we held structure, this trade would have worked out up into at least into this 78 area. I was in around, my entry was 69.25. So right here when we pushed above this volume here, and then it came in. So I entered on this high tick, so it made me a little nervous, and then I was below the volume, and then I got taken out on this one. So not great management. And then the push up. Kelly came back in on the push down and this increased volume here, little increased volume, and then it just exploded higher. And the target would have been to come up into this structure here at the 82.75. That would have been the final target, which is right in this area. We have some increased volume from this untested supply, but the structure here up, this is that 82.50 here, would have been a fantastic target into there. So feel good about it. I am spotting the opportunities and executing, but just the management is not ideal. Oil here is an interesting place. Again, it's so volatile that it's hard to trade, but this spike down here, large absorption and buying coming in here into this previous kind of flip area and demand. So I was thinking possibly a long trade up through here into this supply drop here, but we can see here, right here, these are our last buyers here that we came below, selling came in, came back in, and now we have definitely trapped buying here. So I would be a buyer if we pushed back up into this area to break the 128 or 127.50 area, but it's really difficult to manage here just because of the size of the stop. It looks like that's going to be the case. So again, we're coming back up into this, potentially these trap buyers, and if they can flip this again, then I would expect that to go up through the structure into this high, into this space, all the way potentially up into the 128.71. And now the long trade is back in play here with a little bit of structure. Our short-term sellers now are potentially trapped, but the stop has to be way down one at 62. So I mean, it's a crazy 50-60 tick stop. So maybe if I can get some kind of short-term structure to set up to where I can get into a trade, but I mean the return on the trade is, the upside is great, but how do you manage the stop? So here's that push up into this untested supply the context in buying came back in here, but again, if I had entered where these last sellers were trapped, I basically had 35 ticks of drawdown here, and stop would have held if I held the original stop, and now we're all the way up and taking out this liquidity of these highs. These last sellers are now stuck, and potentially would expect to see this all the way back up to 128.71 or anywhere in here where we have sellers potentially that could come back in. So anywhere in here would be nice potential to take profit, but basically an 80, 90 tick trade right now sitting in this. And then I would expect the structure to hold from above now. These tops, these trap sellers could potentially get out, liquidate, and push higher. But again, it's pretty very hard to enter in this highly volatile market. So idea was right, context was correct. Trade would have been extremely uncomfortable and stop would have held, but it easily could have ripped me out as well. So I feel like I'm also getting much better at understanding when there's no trade here anymore in oil, regardless of the volatility and stuff. But coming up into fresh supply, the supply drop here, holding the structure, pushing above, the liquidity has already been taken out of this short-term range in here. It seems that buyers are definitely in control here with the high volume below. So everything supports the long trade. But at this point, after the break of these highs, there's really no way to enter into this trade unless you just pull back and hope that this area holds. But I mean, they could come back all the way down. And this is now somewhat of a weak low. This liquidity of this low right here was not taken out. This low could go all the way back down into this high volume spike here. So any of this is possible to revisit, but expectation would be that these tops hold, or that this last seller area would hold. ES has a possible potential long trade setting up if I can get some short-term structure, if I see that some shorts are trapped in here. We have this structure here pulling back through this imbalance. So now we're retesting this low volume node area here, and now we're pushing down below it. So there's a potential area to get long in here. But again, our last seller is way up here, back into this supply drop here. So anywhere in this would be a target to the upside if I could find an entry in. Oops, I guess I left the video running accidentally. The oil, I just wanted to talk about this real quick, that we came all the way back up into that expected move into the 128.52. So that's some 150 ticks above where my expectation of what this would hold at the 127. So if you could manage that, sit through that, would have been an amazing trade. Regular session in the ES has been taken out, the lows here, so no long trades. We have trouble here, and so my read was not very good. I mean, we had a chance to get up into this supply drop here, but never had much luck. And then when we didn't hold this LVN up here, it really was all downside. So at this point, we have this low volume area from the overnight trade. So we're either going to see buyers come in here strong on the limit, or we potentially could see the lows all the way down through the overnight low at about 41.37. This was a pretty decent buying effort out of here. So, but at this point, it's definitely more short side continuation trades, if anything. And the liquidity of the lows has been taken out. So taking lows after the break of that low is also risky. I tried to get a short in here at 64.75 and didn't quite get the pullback, and now we broke down below my last buyer. So this liquidity has been taken out, and not I pulled my order after this low was taken out, but now expectation would be that this continuation low trade, the short trade, is in play.